All right, what happened in Chicago this week? Well, in economics news, the Bears, the owners of the big empty site south of McCormick Place, released a rendering for a proposed mega development meant to include a new Bears stadium. They haven't actually met with the Bears about the proposed development, but that's not stopping them from shooting their shot. So we'll see what comes of that. The Merchandise Mart, which is so named because it has historically been the country's largest showroom destination for furniture and other brands, has been slowly losing showrooms to West Loop over the last handful of years. And this week, a few more brands announced that they're moving out of the Merchandise Mart and into West Loop, into Fulton Market, which continues the trend of the center of gravity of downtown moving westward towards the West Loop and into the West Loop, with something like 10 high-rises, commercial and residential high-rises planned to start construction the next year or so in Fulton Market. This trend is likely to continue. Good news, Cook County gained around 40,000 people between 2023, I think the summer of 2023 and summer of 2024, or about 0.8% of our population, 0.8% growth. We're still almost 2% below our pre-pandemic population size, so another 2 years or so, and we'll be roughly back to where we were. And considering that roughly 50,000 migrants came to Cook County in that time period, the county likely would have shrunk or stayed the same size without the migrants. So that's good. It's good that it happened population-wise and for our economy as well. But it means that likely it'll be more than just a few years, actually, if we continue growing at that rate, which is essentially stagnant. It'll be more than a couple of years before we get back to the same size that we were before. The city shot down a proposed ban on the selling of real furs in the city. I talked about that last week. I know everyone was worried about that, so we can all rest easy. In political news, the fight over who will pay for the $175 million payment to the Chicago Teachers Union pension fund remains heated, with Mayor Johnson this week publicly accusing Pedro Martinez, the CPS, Chicago Public Schools CEO, of lying about taking on the pension payment last year. So the drama continues, with it all likely coming to a head in the next week or two with a Board of Education vote that will either give Mayor Johnson what he wants, or leave him figuring out a way to pay for that pension payment out of the city budget. The head of the agency charged with investigating Chicago Police Department misconduct resigned this week, 2 weeks before the city's police oversight board planned to take a vote of no confidence in her leadership. The larger context is that 250 of the oversight positions that Chicago is legally required to fill as part of our federal court order against the Chicago Police Department to get their city department to rehabilitate itself from routinely violating Black and brown residents' constitutional rights remains vacant. Those 250 positions that we're legally required to have and have been for a long time, they remain vacant. And it's not clear why the Johnson administration has not filled them, despite the fact that his administration ostensibly prioritizes minimizing racial discrimination in police conduct. Apparently hasn't prioritized filling these positions, even though they're legally required to do so. So that was the larger context there. A federal jury ordered the city of Chicago to pay $120 million to two men who were wrongly convicted of a 2003 murder and spent a combined 32 years in prison, setting a new Chicago City record for a wrongful conviction case. And if you just compare that to the $175 million in pension payment that CPS and the Johnson administration are fighting over so viciously about, and that has really taken the Johnson administration kind of off course, it's easy to see why these sorts of payouts for wrongful conviction cases and other things like that are extremely harmful to the city, beyond the actual harm, of course, of the police misconduct itself. After a tourist this week was shot in Streeterville, the local alderman, Brian Hopkins, wants to implement an 8 p.m. downtown curfew for minors. There's currently, I think, a 10:30 p.m. curfew. The tourist was shot after violence broke out at one of what the kids call Teen Trend. I think that's what they call it, when hundreds of the youths spontaneously get together somewhere based on a hashtag or something on social media or TikTok or Snapchat or whatever. Northwestern University is among the list of schools that the Trump administration is investigating for alleged anti-Semitism related to the Israel-Hamas war protests. At risk of losing hundreds of millions of dollars in federal funding, Northwestern, over the last, I think, couple of months, has quietly removed mentions of diversity, equity, and inclusion-related things from its website. Hundreds of universities across the country are doing the same thing in a bid to avoid the ire of the Trump administration. And that is what happened in Chicago this week. I will see you next week. Happy St. Patty's Day weekend.